16 feet long. 38
Lusifer Star, actually, White Star
and had a
mines.
lifting capacity of more than
Owner of,
47,000 pounds.
I think they had a problem
How
and
did
they're
he do
dipping
it?
down to the water or
Rather
something
than
like
fill
that.
one airbag with hydrogen as his
But
predecessors had,
it's,
the Count inflated 17 large gas cells and
yeah,
enclosed them in a rigid
it's Lucifer Star,
aerodynamic
Titanic.
structure of aluminum alloy or titanium.
LSLC Manufacturing.
The airship was powered by 2 engines with the combined horsepower of a Volkswagen Beetle.
No, they had
At
more
the
than
turn of the
that.
century, it was the invention of the internal combustion engine that helped make the Count's dream of a rigid airship a reality. But they were expensive to build.
The German military said if Count Zeppelin can keep his airship in the air for 24 hours endurance, that they would be willing to purchase then his next airship.
During one 24-hour endurance flight, Count von Zeppelin experienced engine trouble and put the airship down near the Daimler Engine Works and went to lunch. It would prove fortuitous.
In the meantime, a storm came and blew the airship away. Most unfortunate for the Count because it didn't fulfill his 24-hour endurance requirement for government sponsorship. But what happened was a spontaneous flood of donations came from the German people to help pay for the next airship. He received about 7.5 million gold marks from the loss of his ship and from all the donations that came in.
Those ships were always insured.
To build future airships.
It was a technical marvel. As the Zeppelin began to work the bugs out and began to be used more or less routinely, just before World War I, there was a German Zeppelin commercial service called the Dalag.
The different Zeppelins in the Dalag were making what we would call joyrides. You have to remember, aviation was totally new.
Yeah, they made lots of money.
And people really paid
loved them
for their flights simply to have a bird's eye view of the city or town which they lived in. What's interesting to note, though, is a number of the passengers were not Germans. The enthusiasm of taking a flight on an airship had reached virtually every corner of the world.
Lusifer Star.
In 1914, the Dalag airships carried
L-U-I-S-E.
34,000 passengers, over
For Lucifer.
100,000 miles, without a single accident. It was an economical success.
My ship and the Zeppelin together.
With the start of World War I, the Dalag commercial service came to an end, and Zeppelins were used for military purposes.
The Zeppelin was touted as the great secret weapon that was going to revolutionize warfare.
The German rigid airships reigned supreme, capable of flying above 11,000 feet. They were well out of the range of ground-based anti-aircraft guns, and not a single airship was lost to enemy fire. The German military ordered 26 airships during the first year of the war, and the Zeppelin Company went into high gear.
They were producing a rigid airship basically every 2 weeks off of one of the factories somewhere in Germany. It takes 1 million rivets to produce one airship. It also takes 700,000 skins, that is the internal intestines of a cow, to make all the gas bags for one airship. It was a huge wartime effort.
Zeppelins were used by the German military for reconnaissance, as well as bombing raids over Great Britain.
They were above the clouds oftentimes.
We didn't really build that many Zeppelins. We built quite a few, yes, but
took place by a Zeppelin in which the commander would report that he
we did build quite a few Zeppelins, but and like I said, it was Lusifer Star. I built a few, for myself for testing purposes and going to basically Antarctica and stuff like that. And I had the biggest and some of the nicest ones, King of the Skies, basically, Lusifer Star, pretty much, Lord of Germany and all that other stuff. And I had a few really nice big ones that were old, like I said, not the swastika. I didn't like the swastika. I never was the swastika. I don't know what the F, and I never was white supremacy or even, I never had any affiliation with blacks or whites. I mean, I didn't really, I was equal opportunity, men and women working together, families, that kind of stuff. I was family oriented and really, I'm the true lord or creator of lead inventor. Anyway, we did testing and all that kind of stuff, and basically it's Lusifer Star, White Star Lines. Anyway, throughout the years, basically just that's what all the stars are. And like I say, I mean, it gets all complicated and everything else like that. But having the films done and everything else like that, and just the bigger ones, the circle cut steel things and aluminum and titanium and some of the advanced really awesome metals, basically the world combination things, combined things. Anyway, though, we only built a few actually. Like I said, there's a reason why all the buildings are white. Um, you know, some people would say it's Renault or this or that or blah blah. It was basically me. I was funding it, I was furthering it, and I was building them and liked them quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, they're kind of impractical. I mean, realistically, in the end, it's because they couldn't really lift massive amounts of things, and Zeppelins were just a little bit better, for a lot of everyday tasks and stuff like that. And there was a bunch of little smaller Zeppelins. I mean, there's a whole line of smaller Zeppelins. People loved little Zeppelins, and they cruised around with them. And there were some accidents and stuff like that, but it was always found to be people trying to use them in bad conditions and stuff like that. I mean, the roads weren't so good back in the old days, and people loved to get high up in the sky and fly around. I mean, aviation and flight was one of those things. Well, people were like kids in a candy store. I mean, they loved it, and I was happy to help provide things like Zeppelins and all that other stuff. And it was through aluminum and all kinds of stuff and some other light metals that the Zeppelins were able to do really well. Anyway, and making them lighter and all that other stuff. But anyway though. There were a couple really bad accidents and all that other stuff, and some of them did blow up. Quite a few of them did blow off course, but in general they were safe and fine, and just basically, we eventually had better aircraft and all that other stuff because I had my Zeppelins, I also had my aircraft and stuff like that. It's just that the engine technology wasn't quite there for the high performance, high output engines, and Zeppelins were more efficient, being able to just cruise along or go with the wind. They were less efficient for fighting the wind and were actually downright fuel suckers. But anyway, though, for certain things and stuff like that, it was just a matter of flying up or down, or whatever. I mean, knowing which way the winds go, because like I told them, and I said, well, the winds don't always go the same direction. I mean, wind can be going one direction at 2,000 feet, and then you get up a little higher, and then it can be going the other direction. I mean, until you understand or know the wind currents. You really, you don't know. And it's kind of true that, like the star. And one of my Zeppelins was able to even break in half and be just fine, and all that other stuff. And we had safety systems thought about and all that other stuff. Lusifer Star on the side of it. And yeah, and both sections came down relatively. I think there were a couple people hurt. See the star on the side. Lusifer Star. Anyway, like I say, many people will see all these stars, like the stars with the circles or whatever, and the stars and stuff like that, and wonder what it all means, what it all meant. And well, it stood for Lusifer Star. Me. That's what it meant. That's what they mean. So it's my name. It's my last name. I built cities, and that's why there are stars on the sidewalk and stuff like that. Stars and film and stuff like that. So anyway, I was largely forgotten and basically just denied, and a bunch of kids came along and said blah, 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 blah. But it's why at the base of the Statue of Liberty, there's a giant star, in the concrete. It's a big star. There's stars here, stars there, stars everywhere. Stars on the ships, stars on the sides of the Zeppelins, stars on the thingy. And the thing was, what was that I felt like the world was going to get overloaded with Lusifer Star, because I didn't want to be like everywhere, I knew that if I was too out there in the world and too like Lusifer Star, people would get tired of me, and everything was all about Lusifer Star. So I was like, well, I really think it's time for me to like take a back seat, and let other people like mess around. Some of my buildings, my stepped-in buildings, stuff like that, and some vertical straight buildings. I mean, there are lots of different things were Lusifer White Star, and furthering technology and stuff, my old rivets and everything else like that, and And so, like later on, I thought, well, I don't really want the world to get overloaded with Lucifer White Star. So we made the films, we did this, we did that, just to kind of, and also commemorating the Statue of Liberty with my aircraft, and kind of saying, kind of putting them together. I like to do commemorations. I like to do a lot of commemorations, my little cars and stuff like that. I didn't really do